Before the tournament, we thought we'd have playoffs in every round, but so far there's a leader.
Yeah.
And okay, a king's pawn opening. We see the Berlin defense. It is the Berlin defense again, and a repetition of their first game so far. Both players utilizing the same opening. Nakamura retreating his bishop, and now Magnus creating a pin. This isn't necessarily the most popular move. I think Magnus's choice in the first game is much more popular, but this one does ask Nakamura some questions.
Do you think often Magnus just trusts Peter Heine to just send me what I should play?
I think he trusts him implicitly.
And I can tell you, Hikaru Nakamura has actually played this variation before, this exact one, and he's had great results. He defeated Alireza Firouzja in 2020 and also Levon Aronian in 2020.
Yeah.
Move on.
Definitely previous results. So, okay, Nakamura brought the black queen out, and now white knight developing.
Yeah.
Nakamura these days in longer games, that isn't necessarily what he's comfortable with. Okay, he does bring his bishop out.
He does play. Okay, so which scenario is correct? It's A, Magnus has some deep preparation, or B, Magnus doesn't know that Hikaru has played this before. That's exactly what was played.
By far the most logical move. Okay, I was going to say, you probably don't want to flick in this idea with white, because now there is a potential hook, as we call it. If black's pawns on the right side push forward, they will definitely be able to create an open line, because white has just pushed a pawn himself.
All right, that's being posted. Let's enter the competition.
Perfect timing.
Yes.
Let's get back to the chess, because Magnus, he's decided to open up the centre. And this is very ambitious for the world champion. This also makes a lot of sense. Black's king remains in the middle. It hasn't committed yet. And usually, while your opponent's king is in the centre, a sitting duck, a clear target, then you want to open things up. All of the options.
Well, I can tell you, this was studied in 20th of September, 2021. So someone has been looking at this line. Who was it?
Who was it? Was it Magnus? Was it Hikaru? Was it one of their coaches?
Yeah, who knows? Okay, and incidentally, this rook move is the next move studied according to my database. A few days ago, on September 27th, someone was looking at pushing the pawn to attack the bishop.
Yeah, this would have been critical. The acid test of white's idea, because once the bishop steps back later in the game, you will have opportunities to push further forward and open up lines. He's about to push this pawn forward. We see it on his screen, and there we go. White has created this trio in the centre of the board with his pawns.
It makes perfect sense, especially because, you know, now the kings are on opposite sides of the board. It's war. We're always taught, go forward, open lines. And, yeah, Magnus is jiving to the beat. And I just love this move, especially because Hikaru cannot capture that pawn.
It's not going to actually solve the issues long term. OK, first he trades his bishop off for a knight, but what's the idea? Is he going to grab a pawn, Hikaru Nakamura? He's distracted away the white knight. Is he going to get greedy and take this pawn that's up for grabs?
He's
played it. He's done it, because now we should mention, if white's pawn captures the black pawn in the middle. OK, wow, actually, what's happening here? Because if black recaptures,
then
he's attacking the white queen.
Bishop.
Yeah, but you counterattack against the black queen, and temporarily, white is a piece up. OK, we're going for this, but now he is about to win the knight back. OK, Magnus frowning. This position is critical right now. White is a whole bishop up for just one pawn, but can he preserve his knight? He's got to worry about his knight, and he's got to worry about his queen. He can't save them both. What will Magnus do to solve this issue and to kind of pluck up the courage to go for? So, OK, he's about to move that white knight.
Wow! Oh, he's found it! Oh, my God. I mean, that is class.
That is impressive.
This is why he's the world champion. He's always got his eyes open for these really unexpected opportunities. Wow. And now this position, as we mentioned, looking very good for white. Black is not out of it. It's level material, but white's queen is attacking a pawn, and white's rooks are going to start mobilising and attacking the black queen and king. But maybe, OK,
he finds it.
We shouldn't doubt Nakamura. He is super active where he needs to be.
And Magnus seizing the opportunity to put a rook on an open line. And, OK, now we have... I was going to say, no, don't take it. OK,
surprising choice from Magnus Carlsen. He swaps the queens off.
And again, breaking the rules of David and Ivanka.
Maybe that's why we're not Magnus Carlsen's level. Yeah, we were surprised because black's king is clearly the weaker of the two. Look at the white rook opposite the black king. clear target, and normally when you're attacking, you want to keep the queens on. It looks like Giri might be about to win again and finish off that match.
Wow.
Ooh,
With the black pieces as well. And Giri is sitting behind Magnus Carlsen. And it could be over in that one if Giri wins game 3 with the black pieces. This one could also be over if Magnus wins with the white pieces.
Yeah, so Magnus, maybe just with that result in mind, knowing that So is likely to lose, he has minimised the risk. And look at White's rook now, a very strong piece on that 6th rank, deep in Black's camp, attacking Black's isolated pawn in the middle. Black had to tie his own rook down defending it. And now I expect to see Magnus adopt a very typical endgame strategy for him. He's going to put all his pawns on light squares to complement his bishop on dark squares.
Yep.
OK, first he brings his bishop to the centre. I'm surprised by that one. What happens is now if Black's king goes to attack the white rook, I thought White wanted to use his own rook to back up. OK, he's going to do this. The 2 rooks stacking up together, and now White's pawns are on light squares.
Just look how paralysed the 2 black rooks are. They can't do anything. So this is a good decision by Hikaru, actually, just to step back with his knight. But at the same time, it is like defensive mode activated. I mean, there's nothing active happening here in Hikaru's position. Maybe not even necessary.
Yeah, OK, Magnus, we know him. He loves to push his pawns forward, especially these rook's pawns, the A and H pawns. He's getting ready for a race in the endgame. So very logical to push pawns on the side you're stronger. And Nakamura tries to block things up. He puts his pawns on light squares before they get fixed on dark squares as targets for White's bishop. And here comes the king. White's king has a clear path in, actually, and there's definitely no danger to it because the queens have disappeared. White's king will happily march towards those black pawns now on the right.
Well, I think we should forget the evaluation bar. I think we should just focus on the human assessment, and the human assessment is this is brilliant for White. And the White king now has a clear path into the game, and just take a look at how paralysed the black knight is.
It's on this open line, are much better than Black's rooks. Secondarily, if you look at White's king right now, it's about to march in towards the black pawns. White's king is better than Black's king, but most importantly of all, this knight is completely stuck, and every square it wants to go to is controlled by this bishop. This is what we mean by the knight being trapped in its stable, the black knight completely dominated by White's bishop. So, OK, Nakamura needs to do something, and he needs to do something fast. So he brings his rook to the 2nd rank. This isn't actually threatening anything. This pawn, for example, is defended by White's bishop, but he's just tying down the White king to the defence of this pawn. And that's why Magnus tries to evict this very strong rook. And we see a rook trade, and Nakamura stopping the White king entering the position by cutting off its entry squares. This knight...
I was expecting this move, actually. Because the idea is to push the pawn forward 1 square and then get the rook to dive into the c6 square.
Not even do to be active. No counterplay, just passive. It's depressing as well, defending, and knowing that 1 slip will immediately result in defeat. No chance of winning the game either for Nakamura. Only 2 results possible, a White win or a draw. So, OK, he's decided to wait with the black rook. And there we go. It's been played. And he's just going for your plan, Jovanka. He's created a nice outpost for the white rook, a nice square for it to use as a launch pad. OK, we see a trade of pawns, but now White's rook is threatening to come up to the c6 square, anchored by this pawn, where it is going to kind of switch its focus across to the right.
And so, but now this time the knight can jump into this square. OK, the king steps back. OK, so Hikaru is really rolling up into a little ball and just trying to wait.
And, OK, Magnus has created a pin. The black knight now fully stuck on this square. If it moves, then the black rook drops off to the white rook. Magnus, he's completely dominated that black knight. And now, what next?
Do you think he is now basically playing for the win in this game, not only the draw and, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely, you know. Just take a look at Hikaru's pieces. Totally paralysed. There's no active plan whatsoever.
And maybe that will be Magnus' strategy. Black is tied down. Here we see Nakamura just moving his rook back and forth, waiting for Magnus to show his hand. But for Carlsen, if he does start to create some threats, he's going to hope that Nakamura gets lower and lower and lower on the clock, and then he might pounce.
If Anish loses this, but Magnus Carlsen could be about to win the match.
Yeah, and Magnus chooses to relocate the king, just to improve it by slowly moving it up the board. And now Hikaru actually develops his knight. So big moment here. To capture the knight or not?
If the white bishop captures that black knight, as it does, the black king has to recapture. The black pawn, if it had recaptured, would have weakened the 7th rank. White's rook would have delivered some deadly checks.
And here we have a check.
Okay.
This allows the black king to step forward.
Okay. Does it want to, though? Does it want to allow the white rook into that 7th rank?
No.
The answer is no.
It's no. And king steps backward.
Okay, Nakamura, he's defending this game really nicely, just like he did in the last one. He's clinging on, surviving. And White's king trying to reactivate itself. It took a step back because it had to at some point, but now it's heading back towards more active squares. And now, okay, Nakamura, he's trying to use the black rook now. This is the best the black rook's ever been.
But this is the second plan in action. The white king is now finally within touching distance of those pawns on the right.
Okay, so black's rook, as predicted, has tried to activate. It's now on the 2nd rank, eyeing up one of white's pawns. Yeah,
it would be a little bit too ambitious. I was thinking step up 2 squares.
Yep, this makes some sense. This is the side white's stronger after all, and now Nakamura, he's trying to pin down the white king. He's trying to stop the white king from advancing, because now if the white king moves, black's rook on this 3rd rank will capture a pawn. What else could he do?
Or defend defend the pawn and just say, hey, I release the king from its defensive duties. You are now free to attack.
Okay, he defends this pawn, so black's king coming across, and now white's king. Look how active it is, going after these black pawns. Black is defending, but all white needs to do at some point is to just take off a pawn, or even, if he wants, maybe start pushing his own pawns forward. Push this pawn forward, or you activate your own rook. And, okay, wow, look at this king's journey. Magnus's king is so deep inside black's camp that...
Wow.
Actually, this is really nice. He's actually going to lock his own king in.
Maxim will be the winner, and Magnus will be the winner in this match if he wins this game, and it's looking good.
It's looking good, and just as David called it, that pawn is coming forward to just basically take control and overwhelm black's defensive resources. And I have to say, this has just been genius stuff.
More resistance, I think. No saving plans.
Okay, so Hikaru moves his knight to he wishes. It was a rook to an open line.
There we go. Magnus attacks a pawn, brings his rook to an open line. Black's rook is forced to step back. Now, both of black's rook and king are just totally passive, almost powerless to move.
Yeah. So all Magnus needs to do is maximize his rook and start pushing those pawns. Okay, he's done that. There you go.
Yeah, so black is forced to wait with his rook. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing more difficult in chess than a position where you just have to move back and forth and wait for the axe to fall.
Here comes the breakthrough.
Yeah. He's just opening a path for the white rook. Also, look at white's g-pawn, the one he used to lock down the position on that right side. That white g-pawn is the one that will become a new queen.
Magnus has conducted this endgame. I mean, it's just been instructive on so many levels. You know, just there's difference between a bishop and a knight. Okay, and now you see the 6th rank has been opened. Rook comes to give check, and
White's rook
takes the pawn, and now the king is going to take, potentially, if it wants.
Magnus, when he's in this form.
Okay, so Magnus capturing a pawn.
And black's last remaining hope is to create a pass pawn of his own, but black's lone pawn on the left side is controlled by white's rook. And now Magnus has it all worked out.
Yeah, but I mean, this is what we've kind of been drumming in endgames. You know, you have to work as a team in the endgame. You know, it's not just one star, it's everybody. Hikaru moving his rook to the bottom row, and this is once again a very neat point from Magnus. His king steps to the side and allows, as David says, for those 2 pawns to march together.
Yeah, and 10 seconds now for Nakamura. Will he click that resign button, or will he play on and show us the checkmate?
Okay, he's playing on. Good. No, he's not.
Okay, he makes a move, it seems, but he resigns at the same time. Magnus takes the win after another really nice endgame.
Wow, it's a dominant match victory for Magnus Carlsen, winning 2 games against Hikaru Nakamura.